Within every human being exists a reservoir of strength, often unnoticed, lying dormant beneath layers of routine, fear, and the narratives we have been told about who we are and what we are capable of achieving. To awaken the power within, the first step is to recognize that such strength is not something we need to borrow from others, nor is it granted to us by society, mentors, or circumstances. It is something we already carry, like a hidden flame waiting for us to remove the covering that keeps it from shining. Many people spend their lives searching for validation, hoping to be told that they are capable, intelligent, or worthy, without realizing that those qualities were already embedded in them from the start. Recognition of inner strength begins the moment we stop chasing it outside and start listening to the quiet but unshakable force inside ourselves. Life provides countless examples of ordinary individuals rising in extraordinary ways simply because they recognize the power within. Consider the stories of people who faced adversity yet refused to be defined by it. Scholars who rose from poverty, inventors who faced countless rejections, leaders who were underestimated, or prophets and reformers who stood alone against entire nations. None of them began with certainty that the world would accept them. They began with a recognition that their lives were not meant to remain confined by limitations. That recognition fueled their courage to step forward. When we acknowledge our own inner power, even in its smallest form, we begin to rewrite the script of our lives. Often, the struggle lies not in the absence of strength, but in the presence of doubt. Doubt acts like a fog, blinding us from seeing the treasures that we already hold. We tell ourselves, "I cannot do this," or "I am not good enough," and slowly those thoughts weave into a web that imprisons us. Yet, if we pause and reflect on our own history, we find evidence that we have already endured storms, overcome obstacles, and adapted to challenges we once thought impossible. The truth is that we have survived every single day of our lives so far, and that survival itself is proof of an inner resilience. Recognizing inner strength means reconnecting with that record of endurance and courage. Sometimes this recognition comes in moments of crisis. A parent discovers unthinkable courage when fighting for their child's safety. A student finds determination when everyone expects them to fail. A worker, pushed to the edge by rejection or loss, discovers creative solutions that transform their path. These experiences show us that strength is not something we acquire in the future. It is revealed when life places us in situations where we must reach deep within. Instead of waiting for such moments, the wise choice is to consciously remind ourselves every day that strength already exists within us. Through reflection, prayer, or meditation, we can uncover the voice inside that says, "You are capable, you are stronger than you realize, you are enough." The recognition also means shifting focus away from comparison. Too often we measure our worth by looking at what others have accomplished. We see the highlight reels of their success, but forget that their journey, like ours, was full of unseen struggles. Comparison blinds us to the power we carry, because it tells us that strength looks like someone else's achievements. But our strength is unique to us. For one person, inner strength may express itself as resilience in hardship. For another, it may be creativity, patience, or the courage to speak truth. By recognizing that our gift may not mirror someone else's, we begin to honor our individuality and the specific form of power entrusted to us. The process of recognizing inner strength often requires us to revisit our own story. Think of a time when you overcame something you once thought impossible. Passing an exam you thought you would fail, surviving a heartbreak you thought would destroy you, or standing firm when fear tried to silence you. Those are not random events. They are evidence that strength has always been with you. Recording these moments, reflecting upon them, and reminding yourself of them creates a foundation of proof against the lies of doubt. Every time you say, "I have done it before," you awaken a deeper recognition that you can do it again. Another aspect of this recognition is understanding that inner strength is not about never feeling fear or weakness. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Strength is not the absence of struggle, but the ability to endure and grow through it. When we reframe our weaknesses as opportunities to discover resilience, we no longer run from challenges. Instead, we lean into them, knowing that they will uncover more of the hidden power inside. This perspective turns obstacles into mirrors, showing us what we are truly capable of. When the Quran speaks of humanity being created in the best of forms, it is a reminder that dignity and capacity were woven into our very existence. Similarly, throughout history, thinkers and philosophers have taught that the soul contains more than the body ever reveals. This timeless truth echoes across cultures. The treasure is already within, waiting for recognition. The question is whether we will believe it and live accordingly. It is easy to admire others who awaken their strength, but the challenge is to believe the same possibility exists in us. Imagine for a moment a seed buried in the soil. From the outside, it looks insignificant, fragile, even powerless. Yet within that seed lies the blueprint of a tree, capable of weathering storms, offering shade, and bearing fruit. If the seed never recognizes its inner potential, it will remain dormant, unseen. But once it begins to grow, its strength becomes undeniable. We, too, are like that seed. Recognition is the breaking open of the shell, the moment we dare to trust that within us lies something greater than what is visible today. Once we begin to recognize our inner strength, we open the door for everything else: belief, growth, discipline, and purpose. Without recognition, nothing else can begin, because a person who does not see their power cannot use it. But once recognition takes place, even in the smallest degree, it awakens the desire to nurture it, to test it, and to build upon it. And it is from this point that we naturally align with the journey of self-belief, overcoming limitations, and directing our awakened power toward meaningful goals, continuing seamlessly with the unfolding of the other keynotes. Belief is the spark that transforms hidden potential into visible reality. A person may carry enormous inner strength, but unless they believe in it, that strength remains buried, like treasure left untouched beneath the ground. Self-belief is the ignition point that awakens the power within and channels it into action. Without belief, we hesitate, we shrink back, and we surrender to the voices of doubt that tell us we are not capable. With belief, however, we become unstoppable, because belief gives us permission to act on our potential rather than waiting for someone else to validate it. The truth is, no one can believe in us strongly enough to replace the need for our own self-belief. Recognition may awaken awareness of strength, but it is belief that decides whether we will step forward with courage or remain standing still. Think of how many dreams die not because they were impossible, but because someone did not believe they were possible. History is filled with inventors, thinkers, leaders, and reformers who faced ridicule and rejection, yet pressed on because they believed in the vision planted within them. The Wright brothers were mocked for attempting to fly, but their belief kept them building until the dream of flight was realized. Thomas Edison faced countless failed attempts, but his belief in possibility kept him persevering until he finally brought light to the world. These examples remind us that belief is not blind optimism. It is the decision to trust the vision within, even when external evidence suggests failure. Belief also shapes how we interpret challenges. A person without belief sees obstacles as walls, but one with belief sees them as steps. The same storm that sinks one ship can push another to its destination, depending on whether the captain believes they can steer through it. When you believe in yourself, rejection does not destroy you, it redirects you. Failure does not paralyze you, it instructs you. Belief transforms setbacks into lessons rather than defeats. This shift in perspective is what allows people to rise again and again, while others give up after the first difficulty. In many ways, belief is the foundation of resilience. You can teach skills, you can train discipline, but if someone does not believe in themselves, they will abandon both when life gets hard. Belief is what keeps you standing when logic tells you to quit. Consider the countless students who succeeded academically not because they had superior intelligence, but because they believed in their capacity to grow through effort. Consider the entrepreneur who started with little, but believed in their vision enough to endure sleepless nights and endless rejections until success finally arrived. It is belief that turns the impossible into the inevitable. Yet, self-belief is often misunderstood. It is not arrogance, nor is it the illusion that you will never fail. Arrogance relies on comparison with others, but true belief relies on recognition of the gift within. Self-belief says, I may not have all the answers today, but I am capable of learning, adapting, and growing until I reach where I need to be. It is not the absence of fear, but the decision to keep moving despite fear. It is not a guarantee of an easy journey, but but a promise that you will not give up on yourself. For many, the greatest enemy of belief is the voice of self, doubt that has been shaped by years of criticism, rejection, or societal conditioning. People are told they are not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough, and slowly they begin to accept those lies as truth. To rebuild belief, we must challenge those false narratives. One way is to replace doubt with evidence, reminding ourselves of times we succeeded, times we endured, times we grew stronger. Another way is to surround ourselves with people who remind us of our potential, not those who diminish it. Just as fire grows stronger when shielded from the wind, belief grows when protected from the constant assault of negativity. Faith and belief are deeply connected. In many spiritual traditions, faith in the Creator is inseparable from belief in the self, because if the Creator did not make mistakes, then you too were not created as a mistake. Believing in yourself is not defiance, it is gratitude. It is a recognition that you were given abilities, talents, and strength for a purpose, and to doubt yourself endlessly is to doubt the one who created you. This spiritual dimension of belief elevates it beyond mere motivation. It becomes an act of honoring your existence and responsibility in the world. Belief also carries the power of influence. A person who believes in themselves does not just inspire their own journey, they inspire others around them. Confidence is contagious. When you see someone walking with conviction, you begin to question your own limitations. Many leaders throughout history did not persuade people with perfect speeches or flawless plans, but with the sheer force of their belief. Their certainty gave courage to others who were unsure. This ripple effect shows that self-belief is not selfish, it has the power to uplift communities, movements, and entire generations. To nurture belief, action is essential. Waiting until you feel completely confident before starting ensures you may never begin. Action builds belief, because every small step becomes proof that you are capable. Every challenge faced, every skill learned, every fear confronted strengthens the foundation of belief. Just as a muscle grows when exercised, belief grows when tested. This is why stepping forward, even when uncertain, is so crucial. It is through action that belief becomes unshakable. In truth, belief is the turning point in the journey of awakening. Recognition allows you to see the potential, but belief is what convinces you to act on it. Without belief, recognition is a mere thought, a possibility left unexplored. With belief, recognition transforms into energy, fueling resilience, discipline, and purpose. It creates a momentum that carries you forward even when the path is unclear. And as you move, belief naturally leads into the next stage. The courage to break through the walls of limitation that once seemed unmovable, continuing seamlessly with the unfolding of the other keynotes. Every human being carries invisible chains, beliefs formed from childhood experiences, cultural messages, or repeated failures that whisper, "You can't." These limiting beliefs are like walls built inside the mind, not made of stone but of thought, yet they feel just as real. They confine what we attempt, shape what we expect, and silently dictate the boundaries of our lives. To awaken the power within, one must first confront and dismantle these barriers. Recognizing strength and cultivating belief are powerful beginnings, but if those forces remain locked inside the prison of limiting beliefs, they cannot fully emerge. Liberation of the mind is the bridge that allows inner strength and belief to manifest in action. Limiting beliefs often disguise themselves as truths. Someone may think, "I'm just not good at public speaking," or "people like me never succeed," or "it's too late to change." Such thoughts sound like reality, but in truth, they are stories that have been repeated so many times they feel permanent. The danger lies not in the existence of these thoughts, but in our willingness to accept them without question. Once accepted, they govern us quietly, influencing decisions and preventing us from even trying. To overcome them, the first step is awareness, catching ourselves in the act of repeating these hidden narratives and asking, "Who told me this is true? What proof do I have that I cannot change, succeed, or grow?" Often, when examined, the belief crumbles under its own weight. Consider the example of great thinkers who broke the barriers of their time. Centuries ago, the idea that the earth revolved around the sun was unthinkable, and those who challenged it were ridiculed. But someone dared to question the limiting belief of their era, and humanity's understanding of the universe shifted forever. In the same way, every personal breakthrough requires questioning the beliefs we have inherited. Just because society, family, or past experience told us something does not mean it defines the truth of who we are or what we can achieve. One of the most common limiting beliefs is the fear of failure. People hold themselves back from pursuing opportunities because they imagine failure as a final verdict on their worth. But failure is not a verdict, it is a teacher. Every misstep carries lessons that refine us for greater attempts. When we stop seeing failure as a threat and start seeing it as a necessary step in growth, the belief that I must never fail loses its power. Another limiting belief is perfectionism, the thought that I must have everything figured out before I begin. This belief paralyzes people into endless preparation without action. Yet the truth is, no great achievement ever began in perfection. Growth comes in motion, not in waiting. Overcoming limiting beliefs requires courage, because it means stepping into unfamiliar territory. Imagine a bird raised in a cage. Even when the door is opened, it may hesitate to leave because the cage has become its reality. Similarly, our minds can grow so accustomed to limitation that freedom feels unsafe. The act of breaking through begins with small steps, choosing to challenge one thought at a time, testing its validity by action. Every time we prove a limiting belief wrong, the cage grows weaker and the horizon of possibility expands. Faith plays an essential role in this process. When you believe that life has purpose and that you were created with intention, you begin to see limiting beliefs not as fixed truths but as temporary illusions. If the Creator entrusted you with life, talents, and opportunities, then surely you were not designed to live small, trapped by the boundaries of fear. This perspective brings courage because it shifts the focus from, "What if I fail?" to, "What if I was made for more?" Such a mindset fuels determination to move beyond mental barriers. Practical strategies also help dismantle limiting beliefs. Affirmations, for example, are not empty words, they are deliberate replacements of negative scripts with empowering truths. Writing down achievements, no matter how small, provides concrete evidence against thoughts of inadequacy. Surrounding yourself with people who reflect possibility rather than limitation reinforces new ways of thinking. Even the simple act of reading biographies of those who overcame impossible odds can reset the mind, showing that what seems unreachable is often only a belief away. One striking aspect of overcoming limiting beliefs is how it reshapes identity. When someone breaks through a barrier, they no longer just achieve a goal, they begin to see themselves differently. A person who once believed they could never speak confidently may deliver a single successful presentation, and suddenly their entire self-image shifts. They begin to think, if I could do this, what else can I do? This ripple effect creates momentum, as each conquered belief makes room for greater possibilities. History and spirituality alike affirm this truth. Prophet Moses, when commanded to stand before Pharaoh, feared his speech was inadequate. Yet he overcame that belief through faith and action, becoming the voice of liberation for his people. Similarly, countless reformers and leaders began as individuals who doubted themselves, but they chose not to remain trapped by those doubts. Their journeys remind us that greatness is not reserved for those without limiting beliefs, but for those who confront and move beyond them. Overcoming limiting beliefs is not a one-time act but a lifelong process. New challenges bring new doubts, but the skill of questioning and replacing limiting thoughts grows stronger with practice. Each time you choose courage over fear, belief over doubt, possibility over limitation, you train your mind to expand rather than shrink. And over time, the mind that once built walls begins to build bridges. The journey of awakening power requires this dismantling, because without it, even the strongest self-belief can be suffocated. Recognition awakens awareness of strength, belief ignites it into action. But only freedom from limiting beliefs allows that action to continue without being strangled by invisible barriers. Once we rise beyond these walls, we are ready to channel that awakened force into consistent discipline and daily practice, continuing seamlessly with the unfolding of the other keynotes. Strength that is recognized and believed in becomes a powerful force, but without discipline and consistency, it risks burning out like a fire left untended. True awakening of inner power is not found in a single burst of motivation or a fleeting moment of clarity. It is found in the quiet, repeated actions that are taken day after day. Discipline is the bridge between intention and accomplishment, and consistency is the steady rhythm that transforms small efforts into lasting change. Together, they shape the raw energy of belief into tangible results. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction or denial, but in truth, it is freedom. It frees us from being slaves to impulse, laziness, or distraction. A person without discipline may feel powerful in moments of excitement, but quickly finds themselves drifting when the initial energy fades. Discipline, however, anchors us. It creates structure, reminding us of what truly matters even when our emotions waver. Just as a river gains strength by flowing within its banks, so too does human potential find direction through discipline. Left unchecked, water may scatter into puddles. Contained, it gains force enough to carve valleys and turn mills. Consistency amplifies this principle. A single action done once may inspire, but repeated action builds transformation. A person who decides to train once in courage may feel proud, but one who trains daily in courage becomes unshakable. Success in any field, whether physical, intellectual, or spiritual, is never the product of occasional effort. It is the outcome of consistent habits, built quietly in the unseen hours. The great scholars of the past did not acquire wisdom by studying only when they felt inspired. They studied daily, through nights of fatigue and days of distraction, until knowledge became part of their very being. Warriors did not master their craft by practicing only when convenient. They trained relentlessly, shaping body and spirit until discipline itself became natural. In the journey of personal growth, consistency carries another gift. It builds trust with oneself. When you repeatedly keep promises to yourself, you begin to believe that you can rely on your own word. This inner trust is invaluable because it becomes the foundation of confidence. Many people struggle with doubt because they have broken promises to themselves too many times. They said they would wake up early, but they didn't. They said they would commit to a project, but they abandoned it. Each broken promise chips away at self-trust. On the other hand, each small act of discipline, waking on time, keeping focus, finishing what was started, builds that trust back. Over time, you begin to carry a deep sense of reliability. If I decide, I will do. That certainty is a form of power that no external validation can provide. Discipline also nurtures resilience. When you train yourself to show up even on the days you feel weak, you strengthen the muscle of perseverance. Life will not always present perfect conditions for progress. There will be storms, distractions, and fatigue. The person who relies only on bursts of motivation will be swept away by these storms. The disciplined person, however, keeps moving forward regardless of conditions. This steady march, though sometimes slow, always leads to progress. It is not the fastest runner who wins the long race, but the one who never stops moving forward. One of the most profound aspects of discipline is that it turns extraordinary goals into manageable steps. Climbing a mountain may seem impossible when viewed in its entirety, but taking one step daily makes the impossible inevitable. A book is not written in a single night, it is written one page at a time. A body is not transformed in a single workout. It is shaped through weeks and months of steady effort. Dreams that appear unreachable suddenly become achievable when broken down into consistent actions. This truth liberates us, because it means we do not need to accomplish everything at once. We only need to commit to showing up today, and then again tomorrow, and again the day after. Spiritual traditions emphasize the power of daily discipline as well. The regular rhythm of prayer, fasting, or meditation is not only about ritual, it is about training the soul in consistency. These practices remind us that growth is not measured in occasional grand gestures, but in sustained devotion. Similarly, in worldly pursuits, discipline sanctifies effort by giving it continuity. It transforms good intentions into living habits and aligns the heart with the path of purpose. There is also humility in discipline. It requires us to accept that greatness does not come instantly, that mastery is the reward of patience. In a world obsessed with speed and shortcuts, discipline teaches the wisdom of steady progress. It reminds us that the tallest trees grow slowly, that rivers carve canyons not in days but in centuries. This humility protects us from despair when progress feels invisible, because we understand that every small effort, though unseen, is shaping the future. Consistency also creates compounding effects. Just as money invested steadily grows exponentially over time, actions compounded daily create results far greater than the sum of their parts. Reading a few pages a day builds a library of wisdom. Saving a small amount regularly creates financial security. Practicing kindness each day shapes a character that transforms communities. This compounding is the hidden power of consistency. It multiplies effort quietly until one day the results stand undeniable. Of course, discipline requires sacrifice. It asks us to give up comfort in the present for strength in the future. It asks us to resist distraction for the sake of focus. It asks us to endure the dullness of repetition for the sake of mastery. Yet every sacrifice made for discipline is not a loss but an investment. Comfort fades quickly, but the fruits of discipline remain. Distraction entertains briefly, but consistency builds legacies. When we look back at the end of our lives, it will not be the pleasures of indulgence we are most proud of, but the strength we forged through discipline. When discipline and consistency become part of our lives, we awaken not only our own potential but also inspire others. People watching may not be moved by grand speeches, but they are deeply influenced by the quiet strength of someone who keeps showing up. Children learn discipline not by words, but by watching parents who live it. Teams are strengthened not by inspiration alone, but by leaders who embody steady commitment. In this way, discipline multiplies its impact, creating ripples of strength in families, communities, and generations. The awakening of inner power reaches a new depth at this stage. Recognition allowed us to see the strength we carry, belief gave us courage to act on it, and breaking limiting beliefs freed us to move beyond invisible barriers. But it is discipline and consistency that give this awakened power structure, permanence, and momentum. They transform fleeting energy into lasting force, preparing us to channel this power toward higher meaning and purpose. Continuing seamlessly with the unfolding of the other keynotes. Purpose is the compass that directs awakened power. Without it, even the strongest discipline and most determined consistency can feel empty, like running tirelessly without knowing where the finish line lies. Power by itself is neutral. It can create or destroy, uplift or oppress. It is purpose that gives power meaning, turning personal strength into something greater than survival or self-interest. When you know why you are striving, every effort becomes infused with significance, and even the hardest sacrifices are embraced with a sense of honor. To awaken the power within fully, one must align it with a higher purpose that transcends comfort, ego, and temporary desires. Purpose begins with the recognition that life itself is not random. Every soul has been created with intention, and every person carries a role that only they can fulfill. Too often people confuse purpose with achievement or status. They think their purpose is to become wealthy, famous, or admired. But true purpose lies deeper. It is not about how much you accumulate, but about how much you contribute. It is not about what you own, but about what you become in service to something greater. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once said that the best of people are those most beneficial to others. That is the essence of purpose, using your inner power not only to uplift yourself but to uplift the world around you. A life without purpose feels scattered. One day, energy is poured into one pursuit, and the next day into another, but nothing brings lasting fulfillment. This is because without purpose, discipline feels like burden, and consistency feels like routine. But when purpose is clear, both discipline and consistency transform into acts of devotion. A person who rises early every morning to train for a cause that matters does not see it as sacrifice, they see it as privilege. Purpose transforms effort into joy, and struggle into meaning. Even pain becomes valuable when it serves a purpose, because it is no longer pointless suffering. It is part of the price of something greater. Purpose also provides resilience in times of hardship. When storms come, when failure strikes, when fatigue sets in, purpose is what keeps you moving. A person working only for material gain may quit when the reward seems too far away, but a person driven by purpose continues, because they are not motivated by immediate results, but by alignment with something larger than themselves. History shows that those who endured the greatest trials often did so because they were fueled by purpose. Nelson Mandela endured decades in prison not for personal comfort, but for the vision of a free South Africa. Scholars who preserved knowledge in times of oppression did so because they saw their efforts as serving generations beyond their own. Their lives prove that purpose carries power through suffering and transforms endurance into legacy. The search for purpose is not always simple. Some expect it to arrive in a moment of revelation, but often it is discovered gradually through reflection and action. One way to uncover purpose is to ask, what stirs my heart deeply? What injustice makes me restless? What contribution brings me peace? Another way is to examine personal strengths. What gifts or skills do I carry that can serve others? Purpose is often found at the intersection of passion, skill, and service. The place where what you love, what you are good at, and what the world needs meet. Purpose also shifts the scale of ambition. Instead of asking only, what do I want to achieve for myself? You begin asking, how can my life serve something greater? This does not mean everyone must lead movements or change the world on a global scale. Purpose can be as profound in small acts as in grand ones. A teacher who shapes young minds with patience, a parent who raises children with love and integrity, a worker who conducts their labor with honesty. All of these embody purpose. What matters is not the size of the role, but the sincerity of the contribution. When inner power is aligned with purpose, it brings harmony between the self and the world. The person who lives without purpose may achieve success, but feel a void inside, because their efforts serve only their ego. The person who lives with purpose, even in modest circumstances, carries a sense of fulfillment that no wealth can buy. This is why many who seem materially poor still radiate a richness of spirit, because they live for something beyond themselves. Purpose is the true wealth of the soul. Purpose also creates clarity in decision-making. In a world filled with distractions and competing desires, it is easy to lose focus. But when you know your purpose, you can measure opportunities against it. Not every path deserves your energy, not every battle is worth fighting. Purpose helps you say no to what is meaningless, so that you can say yes to what truly matters. This clarity prevents burnout, because instead of scattering your energy across countless pursuits, you channel it into the stream of a single direction. Like a magnifying glass focusing sunlight into a single point strong enough to ignite fire, purpose focuses life into concentrated strength capable of igniting change. Spiritually, purpose is what connects our individual lives to the eternal. The Quran reminds us that mankind was created to worship, not merely in ritual, but in living a life of justice, compassion, and service that reflects divine values. Every act, no matter how small, can become purposeful when done with the intention of serving the Creator and creation. This transforms daily actions into acts of meaning. Feeding a family becomes service, working honestly becomes worship, and enduring hardship becomes testimony of faith. Such a perspective elevates even ordinary lives into extraordinary purpose. Purpose also has a multiplying effect on others. A person of purpose radiates conviction, and others are drawn to that light. Just as belief inspires those around us, so does purpose create ripples of change. Communities are lifted when even a few individuals live with clear purpose, because their presence provides direction, hope, and strength to others. Children, especially, learn not only from words but from witnessing the example of purposeful living. In this way, purpose becomes generational, passed from one life to another, shaping legacies that outlast the individual. Awakening power without purpose risks misdirection. Strength may become arrogance, discipline may become obsession, and consistency may become routine without meaning. Purpose ensures that power is used to build, not destroy, to elevate, not diminish. It provides the why behind every what, the soul behind every action. When strength, belief, freedom from limitations, and disciplined consistency are united under a meaningful purpose, the awakened power within becomes unstoppable. And it is from this place of alignment that the journey naturally expands into the final dimension, allowing our awakening not only to transform ourselves, but also to inspire and uplift those around us, continuing seamlessly with the unfolding of the other keynotes. The true measure of awakening the power within is not only in how it transforms your own life, but in how it ripples outward to touch the lives of others. Inner strength that is kept locked inside remains incomplete. Its highest fulfillment is found in sharing, inspiring, and lifting those around you. When people see a life that embodies courage, discipline, and purpose, they feel a spark awaken within themselves. Your journey then becomes more than personal. It becomes a light for others to see their own possibilities. Inspiration is not about preaching to people. It is about living in a way that silently declares, "It is possible." Throughout history, the most impactful individuals were not simply those who achieved greatness for themselves, but those who ignited belief in others. They carried themselves with such conviction and clarity that others could not help but be moved. Consider leaders who stood firm in times of fear, reformers who carried visions of justice, or teachers who devoted themselves to shaping minds. Their strength did not remain personal, it became communal. Their power within awakened power around them. This is the natural culmination of an awakened soul. It overflows. Inspiring others does not require grand speeches or global recognition. Sometimes it is in the smallest of gestures. A parent who perseveres through hardship to provide for their children plants seeds of resilience in their hearts. A friend who refuses to give up on their dreams encourages others not to abandon their own. A stranger who shows kindness in a moment of darkness can restore faith in humanity. Every action rooted in awakened power carries the potential to transform the atmosphere of those who witness it. Inspiration is not always loud, often it is quiet but unforgettable. The beauty of inspiring others is that it multiplies. When one person awakens, they encourage another, and that person encourages yet another, until a ripple becomes a wave. A single act of courage can set off a chain of courage in others. A single voice of truth can embolden a community. This is why it is said that change does not begin with masses, but with individuals who dare to live differently. The awakened power within you may seem personal, but in reality, it carries the potential to awaken nations. Yet, to inspire authentically, one must live consistently with the principles of inner awakening. People are not inspired by perfection but by integrity. They do not need to see someone without struggles. They need to see someone who perseveres despite them. When others witness you rising again after failure, staying disciplined when it is difficult, or holding on to purpose in the face of adversity, they see a reflection of their own struggles and realize that growth is possible for them too. Inspiration flows not from claiming to be flawless, but from being honest and unwavering in the pursuit of growth. In many spiritual traditions, this outward expression of inner strength is seen as the highest stage of growth. In Islam, for example, a believer is encouraged not only to worship, but also to enjoin good and encourage others toward righteousness. This demonstrates that awakening is not meant to remain internal. It must manifest in how one interacts with creation. Similarly, in other traditions, sages and saints are remembered not for isolating themselves in power, but for sharing wisdom, guiding communities, and uplifting others with compassion. Their inner awakening became a gift to the world. There is also a responsibility in inspiring others. Influence is powerful, and power can be misused if not rooted in purpose. Some inspire fear or division, but true awakening inspires courage, unity, and growth. This is why earlier keynotes are vital. Recognition, belief, overcoming limits, discipline, and purpose all shape the kind of influence you radiate. If your power is guided by ego, it may mislead others. But if it is grounded in purpose and integrity, it becomes a force of healing and empowerment. The responsibility is not to be perfect, but to ensure that your example pushes others toward their best selves, rather than pulling them into despair or complacency. Practical ways of inspiring others often come through service. When you use your gifts not only for personal gain, but to help others, you plant seeds that live on long after you. Teaching, mentoring, encouraging, or simply listening to someone in need are all forms of service that awaken potential in others. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, once reminded believers that even a smile is charity. Such small acts may seem insignificant, but they can carry profound impact. Because inspiration is not always in the scale of the act, but in the sincerity behind it. There is also a generational aspect to inspiration. The legacy you leave is not measured only in wealth or status, but in the example you set. Children who watch parents persevere inherit courage. Communities shaped by individuals who lived with integrity inherit values. The power within, once awakened and shared, continues long after you are gone. Your life becomes a story told in whispers, a memory that gives strength to someone facing their own battle. To inspire others is to plant trees under whose shade you may never sit, but whose presence will bless generations. Inspiration also deepens your own awakening. When you see someone moved by your courage, you feel encouraged to continue. When you witness others growing because of your consistency, your own discipline strengthens. This creates a cycle. As you awaken others, they awaken you in return. Power that is shared does not diminish, it multiplies. The more you give, the more it grows, both within you and around you. This is the profound mystery of inspiration. It expands in circles without end. Ultimately, awakening the power within reaches its highest fulfillment in this act of giving. Recognition allowed you to see your strength. Belief gave you courage to trust it. Breaking limiting beliefs freed you from invisible chains. Discipline and consistency shaped your strength into endurance. Purpose directed it toward meaning. And now, inspiring others allows all of that to extend beyond you, creating waves of transformation in lives you may never fully know. This is the completion of the journey, where personal awakening becomes communal, and the light within one soul becomes a beacon for many others, aligning seamlessly with the unfolding of the other keynotes.